Are you
Yep.
there? You're good.
Yes.
And Lowell Kern I see, Larry I heard, and Pamela I saw. So that's everybody. We got a quorum.
That's great. I think everyone is here other than one board member. It's,
Yep.
it's pretty amazing. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Maybe I'll kick things off. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are safe in these very unique times. And hope you had a good Thanksgiving. So good afternoon. And with a quorum being present, I now call to order the December 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. Due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic and consistent with the governor's executive order 202.1 issued on March 12th, 2020, this meeting is being held remotely via Zoom, enabling participation of the directors and the general public. The directors have received the agenda materials in advance of this meeting and are free to ask questions or comment at any time on the action items submitted for approval today. Please note, however, questions or comments from the audience will not be entertained at the meeting. I note that the board memos and resolutions on today's agenda have been posted on the Trust website in the link entitled Board Meetings, Bylaws, and Other Materials under Board Agendas and Minutes, and thus are available to the public. There are 7 items on the consent agenda for our meeting today. 1, approval of minutes and ratification of the actions taken on the October 1st, 2020 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. 2, authorization to amend the contract with Gilbane Building Company for park-wide construction management services related to Pier 40 sprinklers. 3, authorization to amend contract with Deborah Bradley Construction and Management for Bloomfield to West 14th Street Bikeway and lay-by work. 4, authorization to extend contract with ONS Associates for design and consultant services for the Pier 40 facade restoration project. 5, authorization to extend contract with M&N Engineering for park-wide marine inspection service. 6, authorization to adopt new document retention schedule. And 7, ratification of board committee members. Unless anyone has comments, I'll call for a motion to approve the list of the consent items. Have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is approved. Okay, on to the first item. The first corporate action item before the board is a request for authorization to contract with DAC Consulting Solutions Incorporated for Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 Construction Management Service. Madeline?
Thank you, Chair Sagos. At its September 2019 meeting, the board approved the trust entering into a contract with Abel Bainson and Busts for the design of the Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 project. The project would include a new comfort station, dog run, and picnic area, among other improvements. And the design has been presented to Manhattan Community Board 4, which is strongly supportive of the proposed upgrades. In accordance with the trust procurement guidelines, the trust issued an RFP for construction management services and received 10 proposals on September 10th, 2020. The trust selection committee interviewed 5 of the firms, and based on the criteria provided in the RFP, the trust recommends entering into a contract with DAC Consulting Solutions for construction management services in an amount not to exceed $1,210,000, including contingency, which work will include oversight of the pre-construction, construction, and post-construction phases of Chelsea Waterside Phase 2. DAC is a New York State certified MWBE firm. Funding for this contract is available from the Trust Capital Maintenance Budget using restricted funds generated from the sale of air rights in Manhattan Community Board 4, and funding from Speaker Johnson for the ball field. The trust intends to issue an RFP for the construction work this winter so that construction can commence in spring 2021. The trust therefore requests board authorization to enter into a contract with DAC Consulting Solutions for Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 construction management services for an amount of $1,100,000 plus a 10% contingency for a total of $1,210,000. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments? Lowell?
I just wanted to say that Community Board 4 is strongly in favor of this proposal, and the design that we've seen, that it really meets the community's needs. I can't comment about DAC, but the project is exactly what we're looking for.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns, comments? Okay. Can I call for a motion to authorize a trust to enter into a contract with DAC Consulting Solutions for Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 construction management service?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's approved. The second item before the board is a request for authorization to amend contract with Prestige Stone and Pavers Corp. for park-wide unit pavement restoration. Madeline,
Thank you. At its May 30th, 2019 meeting, the board authorized the trust to enter into an on-call contract with Prestige Stone and Pavers Corp. for the park-wide unit pavement restoration, which included the replacement of damaged pavers and deteriorated expansion joint material placed between the bulkhead and the Esplanade pavers at certain locations throughout the park. At its January 23rd, 2020 meeting, the board authorized an additional $350,000 plus a 10% contingency for work to be performed in 2020 for a total board authorization of $660,000. Trust staff has identified additional work for 2021, including required paving repair work at piers 62, 63, and 64, and therefore seeks board authorization for an additional $330,000. Trust staff has been pleased with the repair work performed over the past 2 years by Prestige, a New York State certified MWBE firm, and the unit pricing for this amendment will be the same as approved for the initial contract. Funding for this amendment will come from unexpended funds in the trust current year capital maintenance budget and from the capital maintenance budget for fiscal year 2021 to be presented for approval by the board in March 2021. The trust therefore requests board authorization to amend the contract with Prestige Stone and Pavers Corp. for the park-wide unit pavement restoration for the amendment amount of $330,000 for a total board authorization amount of up to $990,000. Comments?
No.
okay,
We've been
There's no
very
comments.
pleased with their work. They've been very fast.
good, excellent.
Madeline,
Yes,
what is the life expectancy of our pavers?
well, the park was built with the idea of a 50-year build, but obviously with wear and tear, with vehicle use that sometimes we cannot control, let's say the Port Authority, the police, fire, that puts extra stress on the pavers. So that's a little bit of abnormal stress. But in general, our pavers do pretty well, but in 4.5 miles and miles of piers, you're going to expect to keep up with, general repairs. And then a lot of the money goes to the expansion joints, and some of those have been a little bit more challenging. I think right
then-
now our pavement looks pretty good, Larry, but some of the expansion joints need work next year.
It does. Everything looks great, Madeline. I'm not criticizing anything at all. I'm just saying that, are we dealing with things that may have been originally design issues?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just normal wear and tear. And as I say, emergency vehicles, which a lot of pavers, don't like. And those expansion joints, which have been somewhat challenging.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve contract amendment with Prestige Stone and Pavers Corp. for park-wide unit pavement restoration. Have a motion? Second,
So moved.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. The next item before the board is a request for authorization to amend contract with Structural Preservation Systems LLC for Pier 40 roof reconstruction phase 4. Madeline.
Thank you. At its March 30th and May 28th, 2020 meetings, the board authorized the trust to enter into contract with Structural Preservation Systems for the Pier 40 roof reconstruction on the southern shed for a total board authorization amount of up to approximately $12.8 million. After the wearing layer on the roof was removed, additional areas requiring structural concrete plank repair and replacement were discovered. The trust has also decided to add the replacement of the passive field to SPS's scope in order to install the field as quickly as possible after the installation of the roofing membranes so that the passive field can be available for public use in the summer of 2021. The amount to be charged by SPS of up to $2 million for this additional work has been determined to be fair and reasonable by the trust's roofing architect and construction manager. Funding for this contract as amended is available from the trust capital maintenance budget with funds provided through both air rights sales proceeds allocated for Pier 40 infrastructure repair and $700,000 from Speaker Johnson for the passive roof field. The trust therefore requests board authorization to amend the contract with Structural Preservation Systems for the Pier 40 roof reconstruction phase 4 work for an additional amount not to exceed $2 million for a total board authorization amount of $14,798,500.
Hazel?
Oh,
Madeline, how much money are we pouring into Pier 40 to make this structure safe?
Well, Lowell, this has been I see some board members smiling. This has been a great discussion over many years. I would say that since I have been at the trust, we've put in probably, and I don't have it written down in front of me, but I would say likely close to $170 million.
That includes the piles, though.
Yes, of course,
Okay.
includes the piles. But the building is so much safer than it was when I first got here. So, I do feel that whatever we did certainly wasn't to beautify the building, but it was, to make it safe. And that's what we've done.
And the best addition to the building was Dan's S.
Oh, the S.
Yes, but
thought you said
there's
something else.
approximately $70 million that's gone into this building, not counting the piles then.
Yes, just for mostly life and safety issues.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions or comments for Madeline?
To the
Okay.
new member,
Heather.
who asked the very, very excellent question. These are things that have been spoken about at prior meetings, just so you know.
Oh, Larry, I'm aware of it, and I've been involved with a member of the Pier 40 things. I just didn't know what the total was that has been spent.
Frightening.
It's
Okay.
kept us busy, I will say that.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. If not, can I have a motion to approve the contract amendment with Structural Preservation Systems LLC for Pier 40 roof reconstruction, phase 4?
So moved.
Second? Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Any
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the motion's approved. The fourth item before the board is a request for authorization to amend the contract with New York Asphalt, Inc. for park-wide asphalt pavement repairs and on-call paving services. Adeline.
Thank you. At its March 30th, 2020 meeting, the board authorized the trust to amend the contract with New York Asphalt for park-wide asphalt pavement repairs and on-call services for an additional 2-year term and a total board authorization of $389,623 in order to complete repair work at the Pier 40 South Walkway and mezzanine parking ramp. The trust has identified a number of paving or related projects required for 2021, including concrete repairs at Pier 40, primarily within the Pier 40 parking garage. For this work, the trust solicited competitive proposals from among the trust's existing on-call general construction and paving contractors. New York Asphalt's price was the lowest, and this contractor has successfully completed similar scopes of work for the trust in the past. As a result, the trust requests authorization to increase the New York Asphalt contract by $505,000. Trust staff proposes transferring a portion of unspent authorized funding of $990,000 from the on-call general construction contractors that had been approved by the board in September 2019 to fund this amendment. The trust therefore seeks board authorization to transfer funding from the on-call general construction contracts and amend the contract with New York Asphalt Inc. for park-wide asphalt pavement repairs and on-call pavement services for $505,000 for a total board authorization of up to $894,623.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. There are no questions. Can I have a motion to approve the transfer of funding from the on-call general construction contracts and approve the contract amendment with New York Asphalt Inc. for park-wide asphalt pavement repairs and on-call paving services? Moved. Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. All right, the next and final item before the board is a request for authorization to contract for Pier 40 parking garage operator. Madeline.
Thank you. Parking from the Pier 40 garage comprises a significant source of operating revenue for the trust. For fiscal year 2020, which of course was lower than past years, parking revenue net of taxes was approximately $7.66 million, or 24% of the total trust operating revenue. Associated operating expenses for the parking garage in the fiscal year totaled $1.85 million, such that net parking income to the trust was $5,810,000. The trust employs a professional parking management company to operate the garage, and most direct operating costs are covered and become an expense under that contract. The contract for the current parking garage operator expires on December 31st, 2020, and thus trust staff have proceeded with a competitive process to procure a parking garage operator under a new contract. In accordance with the trust's procurement guidelines, the trust issued a request for proposals for professional management and operations of Pier 40 parking garage and received 4 proposals on the submission deadline, October 20th, 2020. A selection committee comprised of the trust property management and finance staff and its independent parking consultant reviewed the submissions in accordance with the selection criteria identified in the RFP and also interviewed all 4 respondents. Upon completion of proposal review and interviews and the submission of best and final management and incentive fee offers, the selection committee determined that Manhattan Parking Group, LLC, a family-owned and operated company that has been a leader in the parking industry in New York City since 1964, was best qualified to provide the parking garage management services. The term of the proposed agreement will commence on January 1, 2021 and expire on March 31st, 2026, and may be extended for up to 2 additional 2-year terms. The management fee is $75,000 for the first year and increases by 2% each year during the term. MPG will also be paid an incentive fee of 10% in excess of the net operating income each year as a means to motivate the parking garage operator to increase parking revenue through marketing and group account sales and decrease operating expenses by competitively bidding its subcontractor work and vendor supplies and employing staff, labor, and other sources most efficiently. For the initial 5 years and 3-month term, the trust projects the management fee, incentive fee, and reimbursable expenses to be around $1.7 million per year. Funding for this contract is available from the trust operating budget as approved by the board each year. At the end of the initial 5-year and 3-month portion of the term, the contract will be presented again to the board for new funding authorization for the renewal terms if granted. The trust therefore requests board authorization to enter into a contract with Manhattan Parking Group LLC for professional management and operation of the Pier 40 parking garage for an amount of up to $8,753,511 for a 5-year and 3-month term with 2 successive 2-year options to renew, plus a 10% contingency for a total board authorization of up to $9,628,862.
I'm going to prove I'm an optimist, Madeline. Is there an out in this contract if something should change and we decided to do something differently at Pier 40?
We always have termination clauses.
Okay.
Any other
Madeline, who
questions?
manages the garage at this point?
I'm sorry,
Who's the current manager?
SP Plus, who bought the previous garage operator, Central Parking. They're a very large company, SP Plus. They did also put in a proposal, but we decided that the new operator would do a better job for us.
Okay. Were there any specific issues, or you just felt overall that this contract is better?
Well, many of the, not many, but significant person who was with the previous operator is now with the new operator. Much of the labor will be coming from the current operator. And as SP Plus got larger, we felt that some of our issues were slow to get rectified. So we think with a smaller operator, we'll probably have a better result.
Okay.
Are we still using that consultant? Was he involved here?
Yes, Dennis, yes.
Dennis. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or concerns, comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the contract with Manhattan Parking Group LLC for Pier 40 parking garage operating?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. That completes the board action items for approval today. I want to now ask Madeline to present the president's report. Madeline.
Thank you. Hudson River Park's 2020 virtual programming came to a close at the end of October. The successful season featured events from public programs and the Parks River Project and culminated with over 101,000 views through the Hudson River Park website and Facebook pages. We were very pleased with the extent to which we were able to pivot from live programming to virtual programming. And it was really gratifying to see the audience expand with our social media channels, welcoming viewers from across the United States and South America during the Sunset Salsa dance series and the Sunset on the Hudson music performances in particular. The park will continue to offer 2020 season on-demand videos for public viewing throughout the year. The video highlights science, education, and cultural programming. I'm happy to report that the Hudson River Parks River Project published an article 4 years in the making in the Marine Pollution Bulletin Journal last month entitled "The Presence and Significance of Microplastics in surface water in the lower Hudson River estuary 2016 through 2019, a research note. This was a culmination of study of the Hudson River estuary by trust staff. Highlights of the report include that microplastics are found throughout the surface waters of the lower Hudson estuary. Fragments are the most abundant category of microplastics found, and combined sewer outflows are a likely source of microplastics entering the lower Hudson River estuary. This fall, River Project staff worked with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to develop a plan to survey benthic habitat in the portion of the river that would be enhanced through the Tribeca Habitat Enhancements Project that we discussed at the October board meeting. The trust contracted with the Hudson River Foundation in collaboration with the University of New Hampshire and Monmouth University to sample both for bottom type and benthic invertebrate community composition. In addition, staff worked with Dr. Allison Fitzgerald of New Jersey City University to expand the empibenthic survey that occurred at other park locations in 2019 to include Pier 34 and the rubble fields at the former Piers 27, 28, and 29. This research used a novel research technique, the clear water box and GoPro, to video pilings at Pier 34 to achieve a baseline assessment of epibenthic community composition. In addition, divers from Moffett and Nickel provided dive inspection video of select piles at Pier 34's south finger, and then underwater acoustic imaging survey at former Pier 27, Piers 28 and 29 to provide a visualization of substrate features at and above the mud line. All samplings and completed video are currently being analyzed by Dr. Fitzgerald, and I actually plan on showing you some video at a future board meeting because you can actually see what's going on underneath the river. Seems very muddy, but some of this is quite astounding to watch. On November 7th, changing subjects, the trust had its first reservation-only in-person program, the 3rd annual Pumpkin Smash, an event to promote composting and sustainability in Hudson River Park. The participants, including me, smashed over 1,000 pounds of pumpkins, which were then added to the park's compost. Finally, sports teams continue to make heavy use of all the park's fields. Following the opening of Pier 26, staff added the Pier's sports court to the Pier 26 sports court to the group of locations where organized sports play is permitted. Though at Pier 26 after school hours and some weekend hours are reserved each day for unstructured play as well. We continue to permit for the winter season as outdoor sports remain one of the few ways that kids and adults can interact during the pandemic. Any questions?
How did you smash the pumpkins? Was it like a Gallagher thing or something else?
With a baseball bat.
Ah.
And I have to say, politics aside, Joe Biden was declared the winner while we were all smashing big orange objects. And it was quite interesting and quite satisfying, I must say.
I don't get it. What do you mean by that?
It was a great moment. How's that? I'll now provide an update on the status of design and construction. James Corner Field Operations is finishing 100% construction documents, or actually has completed them, for Gansevoort Peninsula, with the design expected to be completed in December. The trust plans to start construction on the south end of Gansevoort, the new beach area, in early spring 2021, or as soon as the trust receives its environmental permits. The trust will be releasing a request for proposals for the Gansevoort Peninsula Surcharge Program tomorrow, with proposals due on January 8th, 2021. As we have progressed with the design for Gansevoort Peninsula, the engineers have recommended that fill material be delivered and preloaded over the future sports field and adjacent areas for a period of 4 months prior to the commencement of construction to ensure that existing fill properly compacts and future settlement is not an issue. This fill will then be reused throughout the site to achieve proposed grades, which on the sports field will be an additional 5 to 6 feet. In order to meet the overall proposed construction schedule, trust staff decided it was prudent to issue an early RFP for this more limited work comprised of sourcing, delivering, and installing general fill at the peninsula as soon as possible. In order to have the work commence in mid-January, the trust intends to enter into a contract with a selected vendor for up to $200,000 and then have the board of directors ratify and approve the full contract amount at the next director meeting scheduled for January 28th, 2021. Any questions about that? Okay. Work by the Whitney Museum of American Art regarding the construction of Days End large-scale sculpture continues. The Whitney intends to have the superstructure installed this winter, although we do not have a date for when the installation will commence. I will keep the directors informed of the status as we all look forward to enjoying this new monumental permanent sculpture of the former Pier 52 pier shed, created by the New York artist David Hammonds in the very near future. Melk Landscape Architecture and Toshiko Mori Architects submitted 60% construction documents for Pier 97 Park and Comfort Station in mid-October and November respectively. New construction cost estimates are being prepared now based on the documents to confirm anticipated budgets. We don't expect much of a change. The final construction documents are due by the end of December for the park and end of January for the Comfort Station. The design consultant team is preparing required permit applications as required by various agencies in anticipation of an early spring 2021 groundbreaking. Additionally, the Public Design Commission granted approval for the park, Comfort Station, and wayfinding signage designs followed by multiple series of comments. An early RFP package to fabricate certain custom elements of the design will be issued in the next few weeks, and these items will be procured separately and ahead of the pier construction, which will save time and money and allow for better quality control. Are there any questions here? Okay, great. As you recall, the trust has initiated or had initiated a Pier 4076 task force in January of this year at the governor's behest with instructions to the trust to develop a plan with the community for the two piers. Because of the pandemic, the trust was not able to complete the work of the task force and make formal recommendations to the governor. However, last spring, the Hudson River Park Act was amended as part of the April 1 budget and required the city to vacate Pier 76 by December 31st, 2020, or be required to pay substantial fees to the trust if the tow pound does not meet the deadline, although the fee can be waived by New York City if the city provides evidence of its effort to relocate the existing tow pound uses. The trust reconvened the task force on October 29th to discuss the future of Pier 76. Many of our directors participated, as did members of the community boards, elected officials, and other invited guests. The meeting was moderated by Lisa Switkin of James Corner Field Operations and Carl Weisbrod of HRPT. The focus of the meeting was to review the work that had been done by the task force previously, acknowledge that the economy has faltered, and therefore future development of both Piers 40 and 676 would be put on hold until a recovery was on the horizon, And also introduce the idea of interim park uses on Pier 76 once the tow pound relocates. The October 29th meeting was successful in that all that participated agreed with an approach for temporary interim uses on the pier. Subsequently, the discussion was continued at a meeting held by Community Board 4's Waterfront, Parks and Environment Committee on November 12th. Both Chair Sagos and I, along with Lisa Switkin and Carl Weisbrod, provided a presentation which included potential interim uses for Pier 76. The Community Board 4 committee members recommended that uses similar to what had existed at Piers 54 and 97 in the past, such as space for concerts, or other large events, such as Heritage of Pride, bicycle riding, learning areas, food and beer garden, and an area to be used by local theater groups would make the most sense for the temporary interim uses. The committee intends to raise these interim options with the full community board. Basil or Eric, is there anything else you wish to add?
Madeline, I can tell you that at our full board meeting last night, the full board approved the Waterfront Park and Environment Committee letter. So that will be coming to you shortly.
Okay, we look forward to.
Nothing for me.
Nothing to add, none.
Thanks.
Okay, great. We are now putting the final touches on the 30-year renewal draft lease for the Intrepid. It's been taken a while. And we will be speaking to Community Board 4 shortly and intend to start the significant action process in early January. There's not much new there. We've been talking about this for quite some time. It's just taken a lot of time to put the lease, the draft lease together. I'd like to now provide the directors with an update on our finances for the first 7 months of our fiscal year through October 31st, 2020. The board packet sent to all directors has the financials for both the first 6 months and also the 7 months of the first of the fiscal year, including a comparison of the 2021 budget with the first 7 months of actuals. Trust staff has also kept the directors of the finance and audit committees informed of the trust fiscal situation, and any director should feel free to contact Dan, myself, or Director Kaplan with any questions. As noted in Schedule 1 in the financial packet for the first 7-month period, total revenues are at $13.7 million through October 31st, 2020, or 46% of what was budgeted. This reflects less revenue than anticipated for the new fiscal year started on April 1st due to delays in opening many of the new concessions, the fact that we could not hold events due to the limited size of gatherings in the park, and loss of revenue from the trust tenants and occupants due to COVID that has resulted in a need to allow many of them to delay payment of a portion of rent into the next year. However, the trust has also reduced operating expenses, and thus operating expenses and revenue are break even at this point. We, however, do not expect to have any surplus operating revenue at the end of this fiscal year, as is typical for the last few years, that would then be available for capital maintenance projects that are not paid by the city or the state or funded through air rights sales. Any questions on this, or any comments by any of the directors of our audit or finance committees? I will say, and I do want to say this, that we did manage to keep the park in excellent condition during the pandemic. I don't think anybody noticed, from what I've heard, the fact that we had cuts in operations and did more with less. And I really want to thank our operations and facility staff. They did a really magnificent job, and many of them, as some of you know, got ill at the beginning of the pandemic. They came back, they went to work, they put themselves at risk, they showed up every day, and they kept the park safe and clean and in great shape, and I cannot thank them enough. In your board packet, you will also find a memo from our insurance broker, Cool Insurance Agency, and a table that summarizes the trust's general liability insurance premiums from 2015 to the present. As a reminder, our last policy covered 9 months of operations due to our interest in aligning our insurance policy with the timing of state budget planning. Our new $100 million general liability and excess umbrella policy for the 1-year period started December 1st. Unfortunately, there are fewer insurance carriers providing primary or the first layer of excess coverage policies, and that really means the first 3 million, as compared to the past, and it's a seller's market, so we saw another huge increase in our annual premium, a shockingly approximate 1.9 million increase from last year. Cool reached out to over 40 carriers to procure our $100 million tower of liability coverage, but many declined to provide a quote. Challenges that were cited by the carriers include our New York City venue, the uniqueness of park operations, the amount of construction activity in the park, terrorism concerns, such as the number of claims we have from the October 31st, 2017 terrorist attack that occurred outside the park, but on the adjacent state DOT bikeway, and the potential for large gatherings of people in general. The New York Office of General Services also confirmed that across the country, the premiums are going up considerably for all industries. I want to thank Director Pegues, who participated in this process and provided advice to Cool, OGS, and the trust on ways to reduce the value of the lost claims, and also was instrumental in working with us on a reduction in the broker and OGS service fees, which we did accomplish. However, even with the reduction in the broker and OGS fees, our premium for this year is approximately $5.7 million. Pursuant to the 2013 Hudson River Park Act amendment, the trust is reimbursed for the premium by both New York State and New York City, and thus this increase does not directly impact the trust budget. Nonetheless, I note that the state's portion has been paid out of the $3.2 million provided to the trust from the Environmental Protection Fund. However, the state's portion going forward exceeds this and is now about $3.7 million. Are there any questions on this or the trust finances? Okay. In other news, Bill Reddick, the Trust's Senior Director of Facilities, is retiring at the end of this year. Bill has been one of the most dedicated employees here at the Trust, always working long hours to make sure the park and its facilities are in good condition and safe for the workers, employees, and park patrons. Bill has always been a joy to work with, and I and other Trust staff have been always amazed at his vast knowledge. He really is a Mr. Fix-It, and understanding of every portion of the park and its facilities. Bill will be missed, and we wish him well as he moves on to his next adventure. Fortunately, Bill has been doing a wonderful job in transitioning his position to Dwayne Cremona, and we look forward to working with Dwayne in his new capacity as Senior Director of Facilities this coming year. We also have filled several positions this fall, so I'd like to introduce the directors to several new trust employees, including Christina Singh as Director of Operations, Roseanne Julian as senior attorney, Denise Ruggiero as insurance and records manager, and Helena Kilburn as part-time administrative assistant to facilities and public safety. I look forward to having an in-person meeting someday so that you can meet all our new staff members. Pardon me. And in your board packet, you'll also find PEP statistics for October and a list of any contracts executed between $100,000 and $200,000. And we have also received approximately $3.6 million for reimbursement from Superstorm Sandy, bringing our pending reimbursement to approximately $6 million left to collect. That concludes my president's report. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madeline. Anyone want to raise anything for good of the order?
Thank you all.
Okay, great. Thank you. I now asked Jeffrey LeFrancois to present the advisory council report. Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you all. As I've mentioned, the Advisory Council has been meeting monthly since September, and that will continue for one more month. At the top of 2021, we're going to return to the every other month schedule. At our October meeting, we were excited to receive a report regarding the Tribeca Habitat Enhancement Project. And because of that, the Advisory Council sent a letter to the Trust encouraging them to shift a lot of the infrastructure that they're putting in place there further west, a bit out deeper into the river, to provide a bit more protection for the human-powered boating community, who felt that while it's a great project to support in terms of the environment, they did want to provide more safety measures for those who are in boats in the water were they to fall out of them. In addition, earlier, let's see, it was back end of September, beginning of October, the Advisory Council sent a letter to EDC, which is the city agency that oversees the NYC Ferry Company. And given the expansion of NYC Ferry to Pier 79, the Advisory Council felt it was appropriate to request a 100-yard pier head no ferry zone. The bulkheads and the piers, the Trust is responsible for a lot of those, and wake damage costs a whole lot of money long-term. We were delighted to receive a response back from EDC agreeing to acknowledge and agree to this 100-yard ferry zone. Side conversations have also been had with New York Waterway as well, who all felt that it was appropriate and in no way burdens their abilities to provide that service. So we thought it was just another good way to protect Trust assets in that regard, and also keep our lines of communication open with EDC. And then finally, just some technical updates. The Advisory Council is undergoing a bylaws update and review, of which I anticipate adoption at our December meeting, which is next week. A number of those changes include extending the term of the chair, first vice chair and second vice chair. Currently, those are all one-year terms, and we are looking to extend it to two-year terms. You get your feet wet after 1 year, and then you catch a groove in your second. So that's kind of the intention behind that. Also just continuity in leadership. Also consideration for membership caps and requirements for staying on the Advisory Council as well, and outlining processes for membership renewal and removal from the council. The Greenway, signage, park safety continue to be a top priority for the Advisory Council, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with the park, city, and the state. So that's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Jeffrey?
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. Connie Fishman, can you present on behalf of the Hudson River Park Friends now?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Segos.
Thank you.
First, I want to reiterate what Madeline said a little while ago. We congratulate the staff of the Trust, particularly maintenance and horticulture, for doing an amazing job during the pandemic all throughout with fewer resources. And I know a lot of people were out. So the community really appreciates that. I doubt that any of them are aware of the shortages that the trust was under at the time. Friends had its ungala, a virtual gala on October 21st, and raised $1.25 million, clearly short of the $3 million we typically raise at our in-person gala, but we did better than our goal, which was $1 million. So we were excited about that. This will help us get through the rest of our fiscal year in decent shape and continue to meet our financial obligations to the trust and the park. The highlight of the event, at least in my opinion, from a lot of people we had feedback from, was the video thanking the operations and horticulture park workers who worked throughout the pandemic and told some very moving stories. We got a lot of great feedback for that from them. And one of the things that really struck me is 2 of the 3 people who we interviewed for the video, one had been working at the trust for 14 years and another for 18 years. And I thought it was really a testament to the longevity of the people who work for the trust. We have just begun our year-end campaign with a goal of $100,000. We received a $50,000 match from 2 of our board members to incentivize giving, and that will be arriving in people's mailboxes next week. Our winter playground committee luncheon has been canceled. This is our 2nd biggest event of the year. Instead, the playground committee members are going to be contributing to something called the Giving Tree, which will be located near the Pier 25 playground in Tribeca. And at the end of the campaign, we'll provide a plaque next to the tree for the donors. The playground committee is in flux right now. They have been very loyal and done a lot to contribute to the park over the years, but because of what's going on with many people being out of town, women in particular being affected by a combination of working at home, trying to do virtual learning with children, having kids changing schools. It's been a bit of a disarray. So we are hoping that next year, probably September at the beginning of the new academic year, when things sort themselves out, that we can retain maybe 50 to 60% of our current membership and start building that back from there. I think everybody knows that the pandemic and the effect it's had on working people has hit women, especially those with elementary school age children, especially hard. We have brought out about 250 volunteers starting late summer when the restrictions on outdoor gatherings went up to about 25. They have been working with various, either our green team on Saturdays, our neighborhood gardeners who come out independently, or a few of the corporations who were allowing their employees to do group activities. So that has been helpful, but it's a far cry from the usual 2,000 plus we would have during the season. Our final group from the corporate side is coming out tomorrow. It's actually Pfizer.
They're coming with vaccines.
Yeah, I know. So we're hoping that having Pfizer come out as our last group will be a good sign, indicative of next year being much more normal. We would really like to get back out there with the corporations, and for a lot of them, the primary reason of participating is employee engagement and community service days. So we have lost, I would say, about 15 to 20% of our active members, and we're hoping to get them all back next year. So thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Any questions for Connie? Okay, thank you, Connie. Is there any further business? No? Okay. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Have
thanks,
a,
everybody.
have a great holiday.
Thank
We
you.
don't speak.
Thank you.
Happy holidays,
Bye.
everybody. Good to see you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.